In this video, we're going to take a look at a bishop sacrifice involving the f7 square and two supporting pieces. If you'll notice in the top left-hand corner, we have a game simulation in progress here, and we're going to set up a position to look at. If you'll just take a moment here to watch the game play out. Okay, now we have a position on the board here, and I'll zoom in on this. And what we're looking to do is figure out how these three pieces can work together for a sacrifice on the f7 square, and how we can work these pieces together. Now there's one thing we'll need here, and we'll zoom in that here, and that is the bishop for black has to move to the g7 square right there for this to work. And if the bishop does not move there, this will not work if it plays out a certain variation, as we'll see later. So in this example, we get the black bishop to go to the g7 square to make an example work here, and get a setup here. And what white's going to do is sacrifice the bishop on the f7 square, putting the black king in check. Black king only has one move, and that's basically to capture the bishop on f7. Next, white can take the knight and move it forward to the g5 square, and that puts the king in check. And this has support from the queen as well that'll need to make it work. Now we're going to have three different variations as to how this can play out when we're at this point, and we'll go ahead and we'll set up our board in the top left hand corner to match that. There we have the sacrifice, and the king is in check, king captures. Okay, now we move the knight forward, knight puts the king in check. So the board looks something like that. Now there's three different variations as to how this can play out. There's e8, f8, and g8. We'll take a look at each shortly. First, we're going to start with the f8 variation, and that will look something like this, where we've got the big board here. The king is moved back to the f8 square, obviously, and white's going to move the knight forward here, and that's going to have a check fork. And in this check fork, it's going to result in a lost queen for black, as the black is forced to move the king because the king is in check, and there's no piece black can recapture or capture that knight with. So let's take a look at how that plays out right there. Now let's look at the variation of g8. And that's essentially where the king moves back to the g8 square. This is obviously not a good variation for black, as we'll see. Okay, black has moved back to g8. Now white can take the queen, move it forward there, and puts the king in check. King moves to the only square it can move, which is back to the f8 square. And now the queen moves forward, and white wins, as white has a checkmate there. Lastly, we're going to take a look at the e8 variation, and this appears to be the best option for black, as we will see shortly. We'll start out, obviously, black is in check. Black moves back to the e8 square, and white moves the knight forward, putting pressure on the queen. So black has to move its queen out, and now white can capture the bishop on the g7 square, and that puts the king in check. The king moves forward, and white moves this knight back where it has support of the queen, as you can see on this big screen right here. Now in this variation, white has a couple advantages, or so to speak. The first advantage is material. White is up a pawn. And the next advantage white has is positional. White has a number of different options at its disposal, and is putting a lot of pressure on black. In other words, taking away a number of different moves that black can make. Doesn't mean that black couldn't win, but white is at a decent advantage here as a result of the bishop sacrifice on the f7 square. And that pretty much wraps up our video. Thank you for watching.